Guys, welcome. Very excited to do this class finally. It's been a long time coming. This class is going to be based on the four elements, and we're going to basically talk about the connection between Torah and astrology. The purpose of this class, obviously, is to live above the Zodiac, and we have the power as Jews to be able to be above the Zodiac. The intention of this class is not to predict your future. The intention of this class is not to predict your fate. The intention of this class really is to get to know yourself and to really optimize yourself, optimize relationships. And we can only do that through deep understanding. The more we understand ourselves, the less we will judge others. The more we understand ourselves, the more we understand what to work on. And this is exactly what really this class is all about. We're going to talk about all the 12 elements, the 12 stars, the 4 elements and the 12 planets. We're going to talk about what's compatible, what's not compatible. We're going to take many sources from our sages, and also we have to recognize that in these elements itself, in just the 4 elements, is earth, fire, water, and air, represents God's name, Yud K Vav K. So even God's name is in the 4 elements. Real healing is about bringing harmony to these four elements. And I think the more I speak to people, and I see where they're coming from, and I see the energy, it's very easy, much easier to relate to people and to relate to what they need to fix and how they see the world. Remember, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world coming from our own lenses. So if we see, for example, an emotional person will be much more emotional. They're connected to water. They have different needs. A fire sign is looking for different things. So it's very important, not only through our relationships with ourselves, the relationship with others, even relationship with our children. I myself am a water sign, and one of my children is an air sign. So just seeing how I want him to connect spiritually and to connect emotionally, but they're more into the intellect, and they're more into. So the more I force them to do something, the more they fled away. So this is just an example on how, if we could tweak everything, if we could really tweak our nature, and we could tweak it, we really get the most of our benefits, etc. from this. Obviously, what we're going to talk about here is predominantly the sun sign. There's also a moon sign. The difference is the moon sign represents the inner work, our emotions, our fears, our longings, our obsessions. So you can have 2 people that are Scorpios, yet they can be different if they have a moon sign. We could also talk about the obviously the time of date, the where you were lived. That has an effect. But here, what we're going to talk about pretty much here is to talk about the primary dominant personality and element. We're also going to discuss what that person has to work for, etc. It's very important that you pretty much get what you see what you get. Sometimes you'll see people that, very rarely, if they don't change themselves, they're going to get exactly what the stars tell them. Now, we have an option as Jews to go above the stars. We've done a podcast on this, that we can live above the Zodiac. That means that's why there says, Ein Mazal Be'Israel. That means there's no Mazal. That means we can go be above the Mazal. That's really the whole point here. Is just because you're say Scorpio, the next thing you know, your whole life doesn't have to be taking things personal. Or you're, for example, a Libra, your whole life doesn't have to be a decision fatigue if you develop bitachon. So this is just an example. Or let's say you're a Taurus, your whole life doesn't have to be attached to possession and money and stuckness. Through prayer, through studying, through work, you can actually change your nature. So that's the one thing. It's not like you're bound to the stars. You could live above the stars. But if you do not do any work on yourself, then you're basically bound to the stars, and our lives become a big circle. This is also so important. If you just look at the Greeks, what did the Greeks try to take away from the Jews? They try to take away the Rosh Chodesh, Milah, and Shabbat. There's also 7 planets. These 7 planets basically also govern a specific amount of nature. For example, Mars. If a person is in the Gemara says, if a person is in nature of a Mars, he's going to be connected to war. He's going to be connected to competition. He could be, the Gemara says, he could be a doctor, a surgeon. He could be a murderer, or he could do Brit Milahs. So it doesn't mean that the red itself, he's going to deal with blood, but he could be a very good surgeon. He could be a very holy, he could be a mohel. So it doesn't mean, our job is really to take that energy and channel it the right way. So, for example, just like the Rosh Chodesh itself is a renewal. One thing about being spiritual and connecting to these teachings, it teaches always about renewal. Like every month there's a renewed energy. Every month there's a new connection. There's a new thing we need to work on. And we pretty much get these fresh energies as these new months come. So it teaches us also, we don't want to just stay. We don't want to just be stuck. It gives us always the ambition of newness, etc. This is why the Greeks, they try to take away Rosh Chodesh. They try to take away, because Rosh Chodesh is connected to the moon. Moon is connected to the negative connotation of a moon itself. Could be moodiness, where here we believe in the renewal of the cycle. Mars, for example, Mars can connect to blood. So by fixing the Brit Milah, a person can be saved from the negative energy of Mars. Saturn is known to be the worst day, Black Sabbath. But through keeping Shabbat, a person could rise above the mazal. So you could see how the Muslims keep on Friday, the Christians on Sunday. They try to avoid the Saturday, yet we pick the Saturday, and Saturday happens to be the day of most luck for the Jews. Shabbat is the day of blessings for everything. So just to show you how the Greeks, they try to keep us under the mazalot. They try to keep you to nature. So practically also, if a person doesn't have a spiritual connection, if he doesn't have, if he's just connected to that's who he is. Where we believe we can change everything. That's really the key to all this. The Gemara talks about this. Many good Gemara talks, many sources. But the whole concept, this concept of astrology in the Torah, Sefer Yetzirah speaks about it. Rav Chaim Vital says. Many of our sages speak about this. Rav Nachman also speaks about this. That the whole point of this class is to get to know who you are, get to know your partners, get to know your kids, and really what you need to work on. We each have to work on completely different things, as we're going to talk about through each element, how each of us have a completely different basically work. There's no reason to be jealous. Their work is different than our work. And also, most importantly, the most important of this concept is the more you understand people, the less likely you will judge them. You will see where they're coming from. Your approach will be different. And that's really humility. Otherwise, we're trying to stick a square into a circle. So this is where we want to prevent. We're also going to talk about when I refer to cardinal signs, fixed signs, and mutable signs. So each element also, for example, fire, right? A cardinal, anytime we're referring to cardinal, we're referring to signs that usher in with new energy. They usher in. So cardinal signs, they come in with newness. They're a lot of times they're leaders. Aries, for example, extremely cardinal. We speak about Aries in Rosh Chodesh Nisan. We get that new energy to start things. So you could see Aries is they start things with new energy. That's a cardinal sign. Other cardinal signs are Capricorns. Capricorns also, they like to lead. They're leaders. They start. Libras, they lead through communications and intellectualism, etc. Water, Cancers are very nurturing. They like to lead their teams emotionally. So you could see great mothers are Cancers. They like to lead. So cardinal signs are the leaders. The fixed signs are the ones that get the ball moving. The ones that are more steady, those are the ones that are more fixed. So anytime that you're dealing with a fixed sign, that person is who he is. It's very hard to change him. That person is very hard to, it's pretty much who he is, but he's going to be determined. For example, Scorpios, those are water fixed. So a Scorpio, he's all in. Once he decides to do something, he's going to do it. He's fixed. It's not if or that. This is who I am. You'll see Tauruses, the most stubborn people in the world, yet they're very determined, they're very practical, they don't move. So anytime you're dealing with fixed signs, that person's not likely going to bend. But, the best thing is to have, for example, a cardinal, like a Cancer lead, and a Scorpio will finish the job. And then the third signs that we're going to talk about is mutable signs also. Anytime you're dealing with mutable, is that person can change. That person's willing to change. They're not one way. For example, Sagittarius is a mutable sign. They're fire, but they're not a Leo. They're fire, but they can change. There's an element of change there. So anytime we're dealing with mutable signs, such as Sagittarius, Virgos, Geminis, and Pisces, they are the elements, but they can change. So remember, cardinal, fixed, and mutable is very, very important, because you'll know, for example, just because a water sign is not all water signs are the same. Some water signs are more dominantly. For example, in water, Cancers are very emotional. But Scorpios are Niagara Falls emotional, super emotional. And other ones are, and you could see the Pisces are emotional, but to a lesser degree. So just because you're a water sign, just because that doesn't mean there's also an element of fixed, cardinal, and mutable, etc. So you know exactly, pretty much what you get. I want to thank Rabbi Kin from 700 Beverly for also listening to many of his classes. I want to thank also Mordechai Weinberger, Mastering for Relationships. I listened to many books, classes on him, and really I did a lot of research on how practically to get to really see the difference between the connection between Torah and astrology. Most people, they look at astrology, it's not a Torah thing, it's not for me, and they're leaving so much on the table. And this is definitely not the case. It's all connected, specifically when you're using it to better relationships, to judge less, to optimize. We know that Shalom Bayit, peace in one's house, is one of the greatest ways to bring your Creator into your life. Having good relationships, Shalom itself is the greatest vehicle for peace. So the more awareness, the more peace, the more blessings come to your relationships across the board. And also, you know what you're getting into. You know what you're getting into, and you know what to expect from that. And this is why I personally wanted to really bring this out. I speak about it many times in my classes, in my podcast, but I really wanted to really bring it out into a master class. This is why we're recording it in a specific studio, etc., just to get everything in the same place.